welcome to Boston. I was actually just here in June, and it's great to be back with so many of you again, and thank you for all of those who have traveled here. We really appreciate it. Most importantly, we appreciate the trust and the partnership that we have with you. We have a very full agenda today, as Sarah just went through, and really the commonality that we all have is everybody's facing challenges of cloud maturity at different points and different stages. So I encourage all of you to enjoy the sessions, but also make sure you take advantage of the great networking. You have tremendous peers here, and I always find that that's the greatest learning that you can have is talking amongst yourselves. So you no longer need to be convinced of the benefits of cloud. Organizations like yours have been adopting cloud to transform their businesses, but what you say and what the data shows is that most organizations are struggling to keep up with cloud across your entire environment. There's a 2023 PwC survey that says while 78% of execs say their organizations have adopted cloud, only 10% believe that they are realizing the expected benefits. And those are, of course, reduced cost, improved resilience, and driving revenue. Simply put, you're not getting the value out of cloud that you should be. So whether you're very early in your cloud journey or whether you're mature, we're very proud to help so many of you on your cloud journeys. Today we support 25% of the Global 2000. Our products underpin and connect the world in so many different ways. So whether you booked your trip on booking.com to get here, or whether you swiped your card at Starbucks this morning, we play a mission-critical role to help organizations like yours deliver and secure the essential services and experiences that your organizations are known for. And we take this role very seriously. We know it's both a privilege and a responsibility. And it's because of the partnerships that we have such a unique vantage point about how so many organizations are doing cloud. And we see consistent patterns of adoption that I'm going to dive into in just a little bit. But first, I want to set a little more context with some additional data on cloud adoption. So we do our own survey every year, and in 2024, this year, very similar to PwC, what our survey said was that only 8% of customers are truly cloud mature. The good news is that of those that are highly cloud mature, 89% said that they've seen dramatic results on their business because of the cloud strategy. So it's clear that we are all still very early in the cloud journey. Organizations of every size, across every geography, across every industry are dealing with the same challenges. So today, we're here to talk about how we can help you accelerate your cloud maturity. But first, in April, of course, we announced the intent, IBM announced the intent to acquire us. And as you can imagine, we've been getting questions nonstop about what that means. And so I just wanted to make sure I address that here. First and foremost, it will not change our direction. So I can tell you that we have some IBM friendlies in the room, and we are going to be at the center of their software strategy. The synergies between our portfolio are incredible. So what we will benefit from is a lot greater innovation, so a lot more money put into both our self-managed and our cloud products. So we anticipate great speed and innovation, as well as selfishly, from a go-to-market coverage perspective, obviously we're going to be able to cover you much better across the globe than what we do today. So all of those are going to be incredible benefits. The synergies between the portfolios are really incredible between multi and hybrid cloud platform. That is what we're both focused on. But today, it's important to understand that everything we talk about in the conference is HashiCorp standalone. The acquisition has not closed yet, so everything we talk about today is strictly as a standalone company. And I want to start by framing the challenges that we see that are so common across cloud programs in almost every customer. First and foremost is speed. Developers have a really hard time getting productive at scale. And it's because your developers are spending so much time on infrastructure operations and not enough time coding. The second, of course, is risk. The lack of governance and control that results in additional security or higher risk and exposure is a big problem, right? If cloud isn't done right. I always liken it back to, if you had strong governance in a data center, it was one thing, but I remember when data centers got out of control, I was at Sun Microsystems for many years, and after the dot-com boom, when we hit the bust, people had to go around unplugging a server to see if it was needed or not, and we called it the scream test. Unplug it and see how long it would take for somebody to scream. Maybe you need that server, maybe you don't. The same problem can exist in cloud if you don't do it right, and so we're going to talk a lot about that. The third, of course, is cost. And you heard Armand talk a little bit about cloud waste this morning. We actually find that on average, most organizations have about 35% of cloud waste. Things that got spun up for dev and test, they never got spun down. Things that are no longer being used, they're orphaned, nobody knows because you don't have the right system of record. So we're going to talk all about that. But it's important to understand that cost, speed, and risk are at the heart of every conversation that we have with our customers. The good news is, not only do we see the challenges, but we see the commonalities for organizations who do cloud right. First and foremost, they deeply understand the application value chain. Second of all, they take a centralized approach. So let's dig into both of those. Organizations who do cloud right, they approach the infrastructure and security part of the application value chain as equally important parts alongside app dev and monitoring. Now, application lifecycle management is, of course, the most well-known part of the value chain, right? Where your application developers have teams with workflow systems and capabilities to code, test, and deploy applications to your cloud infrastructure. HashiCorp sits at the center of the application value chain with our infrastructure and our security offerings. We have reframed our portfolio, as you heard from Armand this morning, into categories of infrastructure lifecycle management and security lifecycle management. The best companies deliver infrastructure lifecycle management via a platform team that's focused on workflow systems and capabilities to build, deploy, and manage the infrastructure over its entire lifecycle. They deliver security lifecycle management via platform and security teams that have systems and capabilities to protect, inspect, and connect the sensitive elements in your environment, such as secrets, certificates, keys, or your customer data. And then, of course, they continually monitor application performance in production. The second key is that they take a centralized approach so that they can break down the silos between the app dev teams, the security teams, and the platform teams. It's this centralization that drives the standardization that's required to achieve cloud maturity at scale. Let's start by breaking down the infrastructure lifecycle management. For infrastructure lifecycle management, the highly mature organizations use infrastructure as code by default to automate provisioning and establish a system of record for all resources under management. We all know it's commonly called RUM, resources under management. You need to know everything that exists. You don't want to have that data center problem. You don't want to have to figure out the screen test. You want to know every single resource that's under management in your environment. The key to infrastructure lifecycle management is to have consistent patterns and practices through each of these phases: how infrastructure is built, how it's deployed, and how it's managed over that entire life cycle. So we like to take the build, deploy, and manage and break it down into something you heard Armand allude to: day 0, day 1, day 2, day n. So day 2 plus, you get to see it to day n. Generically speaking, day 0 means you're getting started. You're starting to adopt best practices, but you're basically getting started. Day 1 is when you want to get to standardization, which is necessary in order to achieve day 2 plus or day n. And what that is a state of extreme automation. You want to eliminate as much dependency on humans as possible in your infrastructure lifecycle management. So if you start with building, on day 0, your teams are identifying and codifying infrastructure components, such as VM images, into blueprints for reuse. On day one, the job is standardizing those practices across the organization, encapsulating security requirements, and leveraging infrastructure as flow workflows so that you can enhance the ability for your cross-functional organization to discover those assets and drive consistency and reuse. On day two, this is really where you want to get to the holy grail. You want to have automating single-click patching across your entire fleet, eliminating the burden of patch windows or risk of drift detection or, quite frankly, missed instances altogether. Most organizations focus on day zero, and they don't think about day one or day two until all of a sudden they need to patch 20,000 bespoke images after discovering a zero-day vulnerability. And we've all lived it, right? We've all seen how severe some of those vulnerabilities can be. Think of SolarWinds, think of Log4j. So while your security teams have to create the fix, it's actually your operations team that need to roll it out. And these are not isolated events. So your organization has to be prepared to address these at scale. It's similar with deployment. It's not just deploying infrastructure as code on day zero, but it is publishing those standard infrastructure as code golden patterns so that on day one, your teams can discover and reuse. So you publish, discover, reuse, publish, discover, reuse. By day two, you want to make sure that you're enabling true self-service. Developers don't need, nor do they want to understand infrastructure golden patterns. But yet infrastructure golden patterns are necessary to unlock the productivity and speed, to prevent breaches to prevent bespoke infrastructure from being deployed. And then, of course, they also enable you to codify security best practices from day one. So this is all part of the shift left phenomenon, right? Don't leave it up to your developers. Let's actually give them something that they don't need to worry about. Finally, in the management stage, and for management part of LCM, in day zero, as a baseline, you want to know everything that's in use. Again, it gets back to all resources under management. So if you follow the blueprint that I just went through on build and deploy, you've automatically created your infrastructure system of record that has all of your golden images and your infrastructure as code patterns. On day one, now you can actually leverage that system of record to enforce policy at scale. And then on day two, it comes down to your ability, you start to be able to really control the cost by automating the cleanup of the resources that are no longer being used. And this is what it means to really think about the life cycle. You have to start with day one, standardize on day two, and get to extreme automation in order to keep that life cycle going. So for the security lifecycle management, you're going to notice a couple of familiar things, right? So this time, instead of automating with IAC, we're automating the design and designing with identity-based security workflows. This is critical to deal with the complex interactions between the data, the humans, and the systems within your organization. Now, we break security lifecycle management down into protect, inspect, and connect. Mature organizations centralize their secrets into a system of record that allows them to then centrally manage and control their secrets and allows them to audit the security posture at any given time, now that you have that system of record. There's no such thing as secure once and forget it. Ongoing lifecycle management requires automation to prevent breaches by automatically detecting drift and remediating immediately. So once again, if we take protect, inspect, and connect and break it down into that day zero, day one, day two, the first thing that you need to do to protect your IT estate is address secrets management. There, generally speaking, are two major problems with secrets management. There are exposed secrets, and we all know this to be true, right? They're posted in Slack. They're plain text and code. They're dumped out in your Splunk logs. They exist everywhere, and that's a problem. The second problem, or even if secrets aren't exposed, is very often, especially in a multi-cloud environment, secrets are not centralized, right? So you've got some in AWS Secrets Manager, you've got some in Azure Key Vault, you've got some in CyberArk, you've got some in HashiCorp Vault. They're all over the place, and it's this fragmented approach that drives up your risk, it drives up your cost, and it inhibits your ability to audit and also automate the management of secrets. So on day 0, you want to mitigate the risk by centralizing the secrets, establishing your system of record for better management. On day 1, you want to apply the common identity management workflows to a progressively broader and more complex part of your environment, part of your estate, like certificates and cloud key management. And then on day 2, it gets to automation again. It's automating workflows to dynamically mint your credentials or automate rotation practices. Each step of the way, you're reducing your blast radius and building that strong muscle memory that you need in the event of a breach or an imminent threat. When we look at inspect, it's all about leveraging that system of record that you just created. You just established that centralization of secrets. That's your system of record. So now on day 0, you're going to continually detect drift. So you're going to be constantly scanning your environment because you know that just because you centralize them once doesn't mean your developers aren't out there making the same mistake. So you got to continually scan for exposed secrets, constantly bringing them into that centralized management. On day 1, it's about increasing the visibility, because now you want to really start to focus on who accessed what and when. And then on day 2, we take the learnings from that and we apply those learnings so that we can automate and remediate processes, constantly improving and maintaining our compliance and stronger security posture. By the time we get to connect, now what we want to do is we want to extend the practices that we just talked about, which were for sensitive secrets and non-human identity. Now we want to extend that to human-centric processes. So on day 1, you're enabling just-in-time, least privileged sessions to control access to your sensitive sessions. On day 1, sorry, that was day 0. On day 1, you're deriving insights from those session recordings. And now you can look at those session recordings and understand your business exposure and then optimize continually, right? Do people have access to things they shouldn't? Do they have access for too long? You can constantly iterate and make sure that you're optimizing those policies based upon that session recording. And then on day 2, once again, the goal is self-serve for developers. You want to transparently enforce secure by default application workflows so that your developers can ship code faster. So clearly, there are a lot of components to manage. But when ILM and SLM, or Infrastructure Lifecycle Management and Security Lifecycle Management, are working together, that is when you get your best results. And that is why we created the Infrastructure Cloud. So we've taken 10 plus years of our knowledge to deliver an enterprise SaaS version of our portfolio to you. We call it the Infrastructure Cloud. It's delivered on something we call HCP, which is HashiCorp Cloud Platform, which is a unified SaaS platform. HCP enables us to deliver cross-functional workflows to you so that you can achieve infrastructure lifecycle management and security lifecycle management at scale without you having to be the one to stitch everything together. So your platform and security teams can use one platform to deliver self-serve, secure by design infrastructure for your application developers. This way your platform and security teams get the control that they need, but your app dev teams get the speed and the flexibility that they need without having to spend time understanding infrastructure and security. Ultimately, this allows you to move faster in a more cost-efficient way to do cloud right. So we have a lot of great customer stories, and you'll actually see on a QR code, you can scan a lot of the customer, not on this particular slide, but throughout the event you'll see. We have a QR code that you can scan to read about a lot of the case studies that we have. But there's one particular global retailer that's just an amazing story, and they were pretty far ahead of the curve, and before we were calling it ILM, they were doing it. And so they established a system of record for their ILM, and they were stunned to see that at any given time, 50% of their images were out of compliance. They were able to automate that and remediate that, and it was an incredible outcome for them. The same with security lifecycle management. As soon as they centralized their secrets, they achieved audit success, 100% audit success, in 10% of the amount of time that it had taken them in the past. Not to mention, they saved $10 million via automation because they centrally managed millions of secrets across 2,400 stores. This customer is doing cloud right. So based upon the work that we've done with that customer and many others, many of you in this room, we've developed a very prescriptive blueprint for cloud success. We call it our maturity model. We want to work with your organizations to help you assess your cloud maturity, and then help you provide the building blocks to help you get to infrastructure lifecycle management and security lifecycle management at scale, to get you to that day-end state. The prescriptive approach really helps you align on the big picture, and then it helps you break things down and sequence and prioritize, because if you think about everything, the entire infrastructure lifecycle and security lifecycle management, it can be overwhelming. But if you can assess where you are and then break it down, this approach really helps your organization break out of the siloed thinking that's holding them back. So lifecycle security, or sorry, lifecycle management for both infrastructure and security is so important. I said it before, I'll say it again. You can't just provision once and forget it. You can't just secure once and forget it. And that is what most customers are getting wrong. They're focusing on day 0. They might get to day 1. They're not getting to day 2 and beyond. We believe our maturity model can be your blueprint to help you get to ILM and SLM at scale. And more importantly, we're not just trying to get you to day N, we're trying to help you unlock the value for cost, speed, and risk at every single phase. Because it's not, you can gain benefits all along with every single phase. So my call to action is for you to engage with your account team, and they will bring in the experts and help you do a discovery process to get a current state assessment of your organization, both for infrastructure lifecycle management and then security lifecycle management. After that, we'd like to do an elevated strategy day with you, with people like Sarah and our field CTOs. They come in and they do an elevated strategy day where we don't talk anything about the technology, we talk about what is it that you're trying to achieve, and then we take a look at the assessment, and then we marry the two and say, based upon those two things, how do we sequence you? How can we help you build a blueprint to get from whatever day that you are at to where you need to be? And we're excited to help all of you do that, so please do reach out to your account teams. Beyond strategy days and blueprints, there's a few other ways that we're trying to help so that you can get value more quickly. First and foremost, and you'll see the QR codes here, we have a new set of services offerings completely aligned with the maturity model. So instead of worrying about what do I ask for in an SOW, what services should I be asking for, how do we create the right level of SOW, we actually have services now that directly align to all of the maturity model phases so that you can hire people, you can hire our professional services or our partners to come in and deliver those services. The second one is HashiCorp validated designs. And if you don't know about these, I highly encourage you to tap into this QR code and go take a look. So HashiCorp validated designs are all of our best practices for all of our technology deployment. What's the best architecture? What are the best deployment methodologies? What really matters? This has been created by both our engineering and our field technical teams, and there is a wealth of information out there. We encourage all of you to take advantage of that. The third one, which is our newest, is a try-to-buy program. So with Infrastructure Cloud, we're going to have dedicated solutions that align to user journeys. And we're going to allow you to try those. We'll work with you on the criteria of what you want to accomplish. But the very first one is vulnerability and patch management. You know, everybody heard Armand's joke today, what's that empty room? It's all of the developers that love to patch. We all know nobody wants to do the job of patch management. And the truth of the matter is you can get to the point where it is fully automated. So we have a VPM, Vulnerability and Patch Management, try and buy. And it's obviously meant to help you secure and manage your assets, prevent misconfigs, and remediate vulnerabilities automatically. Think about it as we've created a user journey that combines Terraform plus Packer into an easy consume delivery model for you to try. And so we highly encourage you, once again, to engage with your account teams if you're interested in that try and buy. And there will be many more user journeys. So now that we are on HashiCorp cloud platform, right, that unified cloud platform, the idea is we're going to be doing a lot of the building of the journeys for you, so you'll have to do a lot less integrating on your own. If you think about how HashiCorp originated, right, it was a lot of community projects, OSS. Then we built enterprise. And now we're taking it to the next level on a unified SaaS platform to make it easier for you so that we're delivering those user journeys for you. Lastly, I want to mention that on tomorrow's agenda, and Sarah talked a little bit about the agenda, but on tomorrow's agenda, Michael Wood, who runs our field CTO organization, is going to provide more detail on what we call prescriptive HashiCorp workflows that can be part of your response to the SEC final rule on cyber materiality disclosures. We all know that the SEC has really amped up the mandates for what you have to disclose from a risk and materiality perspective. And we actually have technology and workflows that can help you do that. And Michael actually used to be an executive running a platform team and great depth and practitioner. So he's going to be here to talk about that. And I encourage all of you to definitely take advantage of that session. So all of the work that you have here and everything that we're trying to do to make things easier, all of that comes from your input. Your voice matters. We spend a lot of time with our customers, and that's how we end up, building the products and technologies that we build. It's been a decade plus working on it. We believe we have the most innovative products and the best practices to go along with it. So we're excited to partner with you so that you can do cloud right. With that, thank you for your time, and I look forward to meeting a lot of you throughout the course of the next 2 days. Thank you.